Hang on. All right, there we go.
Hello, everyone.
Goodness gracious, husbands.
Why?
Every week we learn something new.
We do.
Okay, let's, we've got our audio running, and thank you for your patience, everybody. We are going, I almost said liver. We're going
Liver.
Earlier.
Easier. Is the word.
Honey, there's nothing easy about this afternoon.
But I think to explain to people the reason we've changed the time, because UK time, we're not finishing until 11:30, and by the time we've watched the playback and checked that, and then we've also done the other stuff associated, we're not getting to bed until after 3 o'clock. Well, like, yeah, 4. So
4
it's
in the morning.
Just 2. We have to just make it, because probably the latest we can make it is for a little later. So
we also have we're just talking now to our studio audience.
Yeah.
Because we want to say, one, thank you very much for being a part of it. We couldn't build this without you. Vicky is with us. Hello, Vicky.
Hi, Vicky.
Hello. I'm looking at you. Okay, so we are going to test the mics, and then we're going to go ahead and do a clap and get rolling for our podcasts. So basically, Facebook Live has become a studio audience for us. So you'll be there with our tech dramas, and we can tell you the truth. We have a lot of issues with the light coming in from this window over here, and just whoa, it's crazy. So if they're ready and you're ready. And our mics are ready. Just one more, just to make triple, quadruple sure. Go ahead. No, no, not yet. Just do a talk.
Just
say anything.
Checking right, 1, 2, 3 testing.
Yeah, just a little bit louder.
1, 2, 3 testing.
There you go. That's good. Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna move it up a little bit.
Okay.
1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, I think that's about it.
That's that one. Ready? All ready to go.
Okay. Hey, Kiki. Kiki's
Hi, Kiki.
Hello. Okay, and you look at our candles. Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah.
Okay. You're like, you want to start? You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready to get going.
Let's go ahead and do an official. So there they are. They're like, yes.
Yeah,
okay, we're going to go ahead and officially start. Welcome. Thank you very much. We're really grateful for our Facebook fans.
We are very grateful.
I know, but you want to start the official podcast.
I do. I'm It's like a bit of a sort of limbo land. This
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This thing actually does help me line up our clap, just like the old clapper boards. Really does help me line up audio and video. So isn't that funny? So it's old-fashioned is new-fashioned. So would you like to go ahead and do the clap for the official start? Welcome, everybody, to episode 8 of Stories from the Standing Room. Hello, husband.
Hello, wife.
Welcome, everybody. This particular episode has proven to be a little interesting.
A little challenging. The subject itself was very grueling from the beginning, really.
Yes. Something very strange took place in the preparation of this episode. And it's something that I can't really put my finger on, and we're going to share it with you in all honesty.
Yeah.
And also our aversion to the subject matter even prior to this taking place.
Yeah, I mean, both of us were working on it and thinking about it in the week. It was not something we were particularly looking forward to. It became a little bit grueling, and I think the nature of the show is to keep it lighthearted.
Yes, and there was nothing lighthearted about what took place yesterday. And so the whole part about everybody loves ghost stories.
Yeah.
Everybody loves, feeling scared and sitting around the, the campfire and just, telling ghost stories, or sitting in the standing room, lighting the candles, sitting around the candles, telling ghost stories. There was something different that took place, and we're going to get into that. But first, we would like to welcome all of our new Twitter followers.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for following us on Twitter, and welcome. We are The Standing Room at HRH. It's the Standing Room HRH, actually, on Twitter. And also over at YouTube, we have some more subscribers, husband.
Excellent.
We do. That's a really big deal.
What we need. We need YouTube subscribers.
We do.
And grow.
We do need YouTube. If you do watch over on, we're going to go ahead and start taking these down at 24 hours.
Yeah.
Then they will become only visible on YouTube, because we've got to build that audience. That's where that's at.
We will keep the live audience, but post then it will be moving over onto YouTube.
Yes.
Because that's where we need to grow.
So we are the Stories from the Standing Room. Stories from the Standing Room on YouTube, and also SoundCloud. Welcome, SoundCloud fans. And we had more views and listens this week than ever before.
Good.
So we are growing.
We are growing. It's a slow process, but we are growing.
We also would like to invite you to send in your ghost stories, because any paranormal event, it could be anything. There's a lot of podcasts out there, but we don't mind sharing stories. I mean, if you've shared them before, doesn't mean you can't share them with us, because they help set the tone for the historical facts and folklore that we kind of tie in to tie it all together. So shall we start with the big dog?
Yeah, let's start with the big woof woof woof.
All right. All right. Well, this episode is about asylums and Work Houses.
Yeah.
That was what our setting is, because there's a lot of ghost stories about insane asylums. There's a lot of attraction to these places that are still, a lot of them are still up there, abandoned. They're part of the decay, the urban decay. That's a really big thing right now. So we thought we would do ghost stories. There they are. This is funny. We got an earlier audience. That's great. But what we did plagues and pestilence last week. And so what we did is we left off with the story that was what Front sold this week, which was Insane Asylum.
Yeah.
And so I went to work. Now, I'm not going to repeat this because it still gives me the creeps. It still makes me very uncomfortable, and it has not left me since last night. I was doing research for this show, and I was wanting to go ahead and dig into the behind this particular plague pit. It's an Italian plague pit that has a massive amount of negative stuff surrounding it. It really, really does. And so it also had some really valuable ghost stories, or so I thought to share with you. So last night, it was around maybe 10:30.
Yeah, as soon as it got dark, you started working on it.
I started working on it. What I was going to do is I took this amazing article by a British author by the name of Robin Sakia. Robin Sakia wrote this really brilliant article on this particular haunting, and it is said to be the most evil place on earth. It is said to be the darkest place on earth. Now, how many times have we heard that?
Yeah,
7
people
billion?
always claiming that. But I think there is something about this place that has
Oh
a very
my
particular
God.
sort of low energy.
The insane asylum that was built upon this plague pit place was what I was researching. And I was downstairs in the other wing of the house. It was dark, and I was working on it. And Alex was out. Husband was upstairs. And I was finding out, I actually am getting chills talking about it now, because I haven't had this happen. I haven't had this happen, ever. But as I was researching, they would say, the locals would say that it would need a ship of priests and an ocean of holy water to cleanse this place of the darkness that surrounds it. So I was adding this in, and I thought, okay, this is great. We can share this with our audience. Ha ha, fun, ghost stories.
Oh, yeah.
And then it started to get, and this is the part right here. It says, just saying the name of this place could make children cry, make babies cry before they can even speak. Just hearing the name of the place. Now that started, I was like, okay, well.
It's also this the point when the door opened.
The door did open. Now, we have had issues with doors opening here inside the house, but that door has never opened. That one goes out to the garden. It did pop open. I thought, oh, well, I'm surely imagining this. This is ridiculous. I've got to get this ghost story out. But the more I dug, the more dark it got, and it wasn't fun, and it wasn't entertaining.
You were feeling you're in a darker and darker space.
I did. I
Space.
shouted up to you that the door had opened. Ha ha ha. It happens all the time inside the house, but never with that particular door. So this was a burial ground, a plague burial ground, and a like a purgatory since the Roman times.
Yeah, well, we've got thousands of years of burial, cremation, and
So most of the soil is made up of human bone and ash.
yeah, it's an island of
17
human
acres.
remains.
17 acres. That's not, I mean, that's not that much to
Yeah.
have hundreds of thousands of bodies.
Grey, misty marsh built on.
Okay, we're
bodies
good.
and
We're good.
suffering. Not good.
Okay. It is said that when an evil man dies, he wakes up in this place. And an American tourist described this particular location as having more dark energy. As a matter of fact, what The Exorcist would be for some would be like a Disney movie compared to the dark energy that is found on this particular place. So I'm in the middle of typing this up, and I'm kind of feeling, well, even now, their skin is crawling on my arms. But last night, as I was typing this up for you, I was going to share this with you and you.
Yeah.
And I could feel this. You know how they say that the skin on the hair on the back of my neck stood up? The skin on the back of my neck?
Yeah.
The hair stand up? Okay, not only did they stand up, but they went all the way up to the top and they stayed there. Almost
Which is
like...
almost like an electronic charge. It's like static electricity.
Okay,
To create that kind of.
It was strange. It was, and I turned around and I thought, okay, whatever it is, you're not welcome here. This is just a story. This is just a little show. We're just doing something really light. This is a very pleasant, very enjoyable place. I love my office. Love, love, love. It's right off of the garden. I love, love, love it. I've never felt anything like this. So I'm in this space and Alex comes in. Alex comes in down the long hallway and he goes, Mamacita. And I jumped a little bit and I said, oh, Alex. And we went into, I was going to go make him some potatoes in the front room. So we go up into the kitchen and I'm telling him about the story. I'm telling him about what's happening. And he's kind of, he's like, what? And I told him the things I just told you about the priests and the babies crying. And he goes, Mom, just stop. I don't want to hear any more about that. Please don't talk. Don't tell me that story. It's really negative. It has a very negative feeling to it.
Yeah,
and I
you
went, "What?"
usually be quite interested.
Yes, normally it was no big deal, but he said, "Go ahead."
And I was also finish that
Okay.
story.
Well, he never would say something like that. It was really interesting. So we were talking over the table. I still had a lot of work to do, and he mentioned again the negativity in the story that he didn't want me to mention it. And I thought that was really weird. And then the conversation, strangely, there was these miscommunications that just went completely downward.
Yeah.
He was misunderstanding what I was talking about when I asked him about today's plans. He misunderstood what I was talking about regarding eating. I misunderstood 2 or 3 things like that he was talking about. It really went south super quick. And I know there's normal teenage mom banter, but this was really...
But the same had happened earlier when we were eating.
Yes.
We've been discussing in the show normally.
This particular
and when
part
this
of it.
part of it, it was like becoming really kind of not a disagreement, but it was not the easy conversation when we got to this bit.
No.
I was personally feeling sort of. I'm not sure about this part. I'm not sure about this. I'm really
I know.
uneasy about this story.
I
And I
know.
don't know why.
Okay, so...
So we're not going to...
Well, so what happened was I went upstairs with Alex, and he's like, "It's got to be that story you were talking about, Mom. There's something wrong with that story." Now, I take what my son says. I thought that was extremely remarkable. So I went downstairs, and I thought, okay, I need to make a note of this. You were still up here working in the standing room. I went downstairs, and I forced myself to go through and edit, because there are some amazingly horrifying ghost stories, but they were no longer entertaining. They were literally horrifying, disturbing, deeply disturbing, extremely unsettling, and that presence still felt heavy on the back of my head. The hair was standing up on the back of my head, and I literally, I did say out loud, "You're not welcome here, please leave." I didn't know if it was, I don't think it was a ghost. I don't think it was anything other than what you talked about. It's darkness.
A negative force.
Very much
in
so.
tune with a negative force.
So it was engulfing. It was really disturbing. So I came up and I told husband, and he said, "No, absolutely not. I don't want to have anything to do with it. We're not going to talk about that story." So I can't believe we even thought remotely of sharing this with our audience.
Well, it's just an idea, isn't it? It's just like, this is a really spooky place. It's got a reputation for being spooky and haunted.
It is.
Weird shit.
And you said you actually saw it when you saw the place.
Yeah, I saw it through the mist in the distance, and even then it was like, let's just get back. I remember the boat journey coming back and just wanting just to get back into Venice.
Right, yeah, because it's near Venice. It is a place
in the lagoon. Look, for those of you who haven't been to Venice, it's built on the lagoon, and that lagoon goes out into the Adriatic. And there is a very strange light there. The sound's strange. The sound bounces and off, and it's very numb sound, and they've got the mist. So it's quite a haunting place, the lagoon around Venice.
So it was, for a period, there was an insane asylum there, and if you can imagine the plots of 1408, the movie 1408, and The Exorcist, and all that combined, that topped what I was reading last night. Topped that, and
it's not good and weird.
The power of thought and emotion is extremely powerful.
Very much
so I've been trying to shake that ever since last night. So now we're not going to open with that story, but we're going to tell you why we're not opening with that story.
Yeah, so it's that thing about the idea of a concentrated thought on a place or a story.
Yeah, so
does it give you link? Does it give it more power? What are these things? We don't know. Never will. But it was interesting to
interesting as a
Alex said on it, and also we knew that we didn't want to cover it. So
it's been literally trying to get it off like sticky tar.
Yeah, so
which is
not,
interesting.
Not a good story. So we're not
because we want to keep this light and entertaining
very much
as much as possible.
We know what we want to do is go into the usual conversations, even though it's not about pleasant things, but going to the usual kind of conversations and ghost stories.
Yeah, there is a lot of sadness around asylums and institutions and workhouses, but we said we'd do this, so we're going to do a show on this, and we're going to carry on 4 hour stories from the standing room audience, which is hauntings, history, folklore, sometimes horror. But I didn't expect it to come in our house.
Exactly. So
but anyway, okay. All right. So what we were going to talk about is bedlam. Everybody has heard the term bedlam, which means it's bedlam in here. It's bedlam at the meeting today at work. It was bedlam, which means chaos or upheaval or a drama or unsettling noise. So bedlam.
Or the chaos of an event, as it were.
Right.
Things get out of hand. And
pandemonium.
Yeah.
So would you... bedlam is actually the name of...
the world's first lunatic asylum.
Well, we can't say really lunatics, not fair.
That's
Because
what
they're
they
not.
were called.
I know, but not a lot of those people were not lunatics.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
But we will talk about the word lunatic later.
Okay, yes.
But at the time, that's
Yes.
what they were referred to.
The
They were
yeah.
called to lunatic asylum.
Okay.
And we will touch on that
Okay.
later.
Yes.
but
Yes. Yes.
That's what
It was called a lunatic asylum.
So what we have is we have an institution that started as a hospice in 1247.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
It was. So that's how deep the roots go. 1247. So it was built by the Order of the Star of Bethlehem within the Priory of St. Mary of Bethlehem upon Bishopsgate.
Wow, husband, very good.
So it was a bit of a mouthful. So it very soon became
No wonder you were
known
anxious to
as-
start. That was waiting there.
Absolutely. It quite quickly became the hospital, the Hospice of Bethlehem, and that quickly then changed by about 1300 into the Hospice of Bethlehem.
Right, it was shortened.
To
Like-
Bethlehem, yeah.
shortly.
And because at that point they were called hospices, not hospitals, so they were
Right.
called hospices. And the Bethlehem was quite quickly nicknamed Bedlam
Yes, that makes
in
sense.
the Middle Ages, because even when it was shortened to Bethlehem, it was still a bit of a mouthful, Bethlehem.
Yeah.
So it's easier to say Bedlam.
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 Yeah,
It was
right.
just shortened to
You're
Bedlam.
off to Bedlam then.
Yeah, and so
Yes.
that was just the name of a hospital which increasingly began to take in people, what we would now say had mental illness. But there is a whole thing about who these people and was it mental illness.
Yeah.
But anyway, it soon became a house of lunacy,
Yes.
as was seen at the time. But and then it was enlarged by around 1300. By 1400, there are certainly many records of it becoming a house of lunatics.
Right. I
As-
understand.
as it
I
was
understand. It's
referred
just
to at
it's
that point.
just the definition. We would qualify. to
Well,
be put in.
everyone would have qualified.
All of them and all
I
of
mean,
our listeners would qualify.
If you think that what you have full-on psychosis, you have shadows of psychosis, and with that many different facets and types of mental illness and mental instability, which all of us at some point could be said have aspects of that.
Yes, it wasn't
So
fair.
it's not
Many of those people
something-
were just driven mad.
They were just driven mad. I
Oh.
mean, there were people that which were psychotic, and for the few there would have been people that would have been psychotic, but others would have just been driven. If you weren't mad when you went into these things, it's a classic. You would be when you came out.
That makes sense.
Because of the treatment in these places, and
But it
even-
started off, though. Didn't it start off, though, with a good thing to help the people that didn't have family or
Yeah.
to help those that were ill that
And
needed
it
in
did.
the 13th century?
Yeah, it
This was a
started
good
off,
intention.
It's the same throughout the history of the asylum, that people start off with the very best of intentions, and it's quite easily hijacked, and then you get abused in these situations. But by 1500, Bedlam was said to be a foul place not to enter, and it was already very bad conditions.
Jeez, I can't
So just to
imagine.
give a rough potted history, so what we have is Bedlam develops over the Middle Ages,
Right.
and is really not a good place, and they're cramming more and more people in, as they would have seen madmen. But interestingly, they were also let out to beg. So even though many of them were licensed to go and beg on the streets of London, they would return to Bedlam.
Licensed?
Yeah, that was just a term. It was that they were licensed to go out onto the streets of London to beg, and they would return. So there does seem to be those who were fastened, were mannequined, were, what's the word?
I don't know.
Not mannequined.
Manacled.
Manacled.
Yes.
Or in stocks inside the building because they could not be controlled or were seen not to be controlled.
Oh, my goodness.
And then there were the others who were able to go out and day and beg.
And then they brought their money back?
Yes, because part of the problem was, which leads us on to the 18th century, or the 17th and early 18th century, where people would pay to go into Bedlam to see them. But that, I'll come on to that in a moment. But the reason that happened is they didn't have the money.
Yes.
So they started to let people in because they needed to raise money for Bedlam, because they needed to pay the warders and feed the, they saw them, inmates.
So by coming in, the public coming in and taking a look at the people, these humans that are inside this asylum, that was entertaining enough for them
it
to
was
pay admission?
entertainment, but I'm going to go on to that into a moment, because
Okay.
I'm going to go back to the history. So what we have is we have a medieval building, but which escaped the Great Fire of London in 1666. However, after the Great Fire of London, many institutions were rebuilt, and it was a time of rebuilding. So in 1675, a new Bedlam, which is a massive hospital, was built a couple of miles down the road at Moorgate.
Wow, okay.
So, but this would have been from the outside, a very beautiful building. This, unlike the old medieval rotten building of Bedlam, the new Bedlam at Moorgate was fine. It would have been a very beautiful building. So from the outside, it had lawns outside and great gates, and the gates are interesting because as you entered, it was almost like going into Disneyland, because by to charge, and they were put.
Okay.
Where you were entering. So on the two great gates, the entrance to the grounds, there were two gargoyle-like figures looking down, which represented, as they saw, the two facets of madness, which were melancholy, and rage.
Sadness and anger.
Yeah. So there's two figures. One is melancholic, and the other one is raging. And you would walk past these two great sculptured figures on the gates to enter the hospital.
So as a patient and as a family member and
as more likely to be, as I think they're more designed to be one they were allegorical, but they were also part of the experience of going into the lunatic asylum.
Oh, God. You know, that's the birth of the freak show, which means that but little do the people that are going in there know, maybe it's that human interest to be able to try to feel like you're better than other people, and thank God that didn't happen to you, or is it because it's fascinating?
Well, there's a number of facets about this. One, it is about these are the other. This is something that will run out through the conversation. These people were not you, they're the other people that sits outside of society. But they're also the people that are, it was probably a mix of three things. Because if you go back to, the paying to go into Bedlam stopped in 1770.
Good.
So it's only until 1770 that people would pay. So the 70 years between 1700 and 1770, where it was a very popular pastime.
But it brought money for the place to run.
Yeah, it allowed them to build. It allowed them to feed the patients. So it is a double-edged thing, even though to us it's abhorrent and it's really not something you should ever consider doing. To them, it allowed the place to be run. It's what paid for the running of the place.
Paid for the food, paid for the everything you needed.
But it has three things. It has the freak show element, which we later see in the fairground attractions. It has the idea that it's them and not you, but also it has kind of aspects almost like a contemporary peep show, because people will go around, but often these people will be manacled to the wall, but they'd be naked and they were made to rage and be more outrageous.
Yes, because they're more crazy.
So you'd have these naked men and naked women going chained to the wall, and the men and the women going to watch. Would be able to not only see them as raging lunatics, but naked raging lunatics. So there's all kind of different dynamics happening to why people were going to this place.
This is a lot of darkness, a lot of dark side of humanity.
A lot of suffering, and it's not that we want to go into all what was done there, but it was very negative. It was a very cruel environment, but it does lay the foundations to what happens later. But people do begin to respond at the beginning of the 19th century, and a new Bedlam is built south of the river at Kennington, just close to where Charlie Chaplin was born, which is another story we're going to touch on in a moment. And that building was opened, and when that building opens, within a few years of that, people are beginning to look at madness in a slightly different way, and certainly the old idea in the 18th century and earlier of them being like the freak show goes, and the idea of it becoming a hospital begins to develop. Where could these people be cured? Because it was almost like a place of punishment. These people were mad for a reason previously, but in the 19th century, and as we enter the Victorian period, it actually begins to develop more in context of the growth of and the development of modern medicine. Can we begin to understand the madness? Can we begin to cure them? And people begin to take photographs of them, partly because there is still a fascination with the lunatic, but also because they're also trying to take photographs and measure their heads so they can actually try and use the science of the time to understand and see other ways we can combat or cure these people. So as it moves on, it develops, but Bedlam's always there as the institution, as the name in London of the place you never want to go to.
Right, it's like Bellevue, I guess. It's just the name of the place.
Yeah, the name is synonymous, and every town later has a
But
place.
also, it didn't get any better in the 1900s. It didn't get any better in the Victorian time.
No.
It got really, 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 really bad, all the way up to the close of them in the 1970s.
Yeah. I mean, probably the worst point was
the 50s, in the 1950s. Yes, it was.
When the doctors had free license just to begin to experiment and
my
find
God.
ways. So that was probably the darkest time, because they should have known better.
Do you know that? Well, they should have known better, and surely we are learning as we go along that this type of ridiculousness is no longer. This is not okay. But let me read you some of the reasons. This is going all the way up. These are very dubious. These are very much insight, because we say lunatics, but we also.
I think we should say what the word lunatics. There was just a belief historically that lunacy was created by or made worse by the gravitational pull of the moon. So dependent on if it was a full moon or a waxing moon, whatever, the lunatic was created by the magnetic pull or the presence of a full moon or a new moon, etc. So it was very related to the moon. The word lunatic comes from to be affected by the moon.
Yes, it's interesting that. Are you ready for? Because you and I would qualify on half of these.
Probably.
You
all would.
I know that. I mean, mental excitement.
Yeah.
Okay, mental excitement is one. Nymphomania.
No.
Opium. Habit?
Yeah.
Been there, done that. I have.
I'm going to say yes to everything, by the way.
Tobacco and masturbation.
Yeah.
Tobacco and masturbation is
At
one.
the same time.
That's together. Yes, it is. I guess you're smoking and using very ambidextrous.
Okay.
Yes, okay. Spinal irritation could get you. This is like a modern day. I don't say modern day. It's a witch hunt. If you were so many people were thrown in there because other people wanted to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Fighting fire. Why would you fighting fire?
Fighting fire.
If you're fighting fire.
Oh, definitely.
Excessive sexual abuse, egotism. What's dropsy?
Oh, that's like you keep falling asleep.
Dropsies,
yeah.
Dropsy?
Yeah.
Is that what that means?
I had the dropsies. Yeah.
Oh gosh, that means if you fall asleep.
Yeah, if you keep falling asleep.
Okay, here we go. Death of sons in war, which would just simply be depression. Yeah, so much of this is depression.
Yeah, so much is based on melancholia.
Overstudy of religion.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let's see. We also have kicked in the head by a horse.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, this one says literally, and I'm not making this up, ill treatment by husband could get you thrown away. Your wheels are turning. You're like, hey, hang on a second.
Yeah.
There's a solution here.
Yes.
Ill treatment by husband, gathering in the head, greediness, grief, gunshot wound. Oh, my God.
There are so many. Basically, if someone wanted to set you up and put you in.
Desertion by husband.
Yeah. When you were in, you were in.
Yes. And once you were in, though, also the treatment, this was... It was
you would be mad if you.
Well, yes.
But if you went in for one of those
places, you would be.
It would just turn you.
And they would also. It wasn't long ago, as an alcoholic now, 14 years out, they would throw us in there and they would cut a hole in our head and take out whatever part of the brain happened to be there, and see how that worked. Because why are you behaving the way that you're behaving? It was absolutely horrific. And so the reason that these are still so big for ghost stories now, from what we understand, and the reason that we even started to do this is a theme. God forbid. we should never make this mistake again. But is that they are still out there and they're abandoned. So you have what you call the detritus.
I think in many cases in the US they're abandoned. Here they're nearly always quickly snapped up by developers.
Apartments.
Because they're very fine. They were built as very fine buildings in the 80s.
Yeah,
in the 1840s, we saw many of them being built, and they built as very fine public buildings. A lot of money went into them. So now they're snapped up by developers very quickly.
Yeah, over by Little, the one that we see, the tower's still there.
I think most towns they either developed fine architecture to house this horror, or they, as in my local asylum, they bought an existing fine house. So I think what's happened in the UK, they've become sort of desirable residences.
Really?
And in the US, they've become this amazing sort of these places of detritus and decay. There's a great beauty in the decay and the sort of the aftermath of them.
Well, what you can relate to washing machines and wheelchairs and beds, and so therefore it isn't so far out as a medieval dungeon might be or a medieval castle. It's literally in your time period, in your lifetime.
And it's in your town, so you can get to a place you can just go and just there rotting on the hill.
Yeah. That's really big, though, going off and taking pictures of abandoned buildings. That's huge now. I was telling you that they call it abandoned porn. Yeah. And husband was thinking, what?
Oh, there are many artists who are actually many contemporary fine art practitioners, I should say, who are dealing with detritus in their work. There's one particular, I can't remember if she has a Korean or Japanese Korean, and she works in New York, and she works under the underground system, and her name's gone out of my head, but there are many artists who are actually working with these spaces. Yeah. Because they do have the shadow of their previous existence and a previous generation, a previous decade inside these often very eerie but sometimes very beautiful buildings. Well, the buildings maybe are beautiful, and maybe because there's not that much land here in England, but literally, like the man who bought that island, how can you? What can you? Yeah. You can't. What can you do with so much? There's the imprint of the suffering, the imprint of the emotion, the imprint of the loss and the fear. That is still very present there. Yes. So what is it like? That's probably where all these ghost stories come from. It was always an old insane asylum. Yeah. Because a lot of the people were just like me and you, and probably we fell from a horse. And then we were put in the insane asylum, and then literally driven mad. Yeah. So Charlie Chaplin, you mentioned Charlie Chaplin. What was? Oh yeah, that's a small story. That's okay. Charlie Chaplin's mother was a singer. They lived in Lambeth. Where's Lambeth from here? South London. Just the other side of the river from the Houses of Parliament, and about like a few streets over. Okay. But his mother had been a singer. So they were forced to go into the workhouse, which we will discuss later. Yes. And the conditions in the workhouse are so bad. Charlie Chaplin's poor mother was put into a form of depression because of it. Mm-hmm. She was abused while she was in there, and that helped. And she was then put into the asylum. And Charlie Chaplin, when he made his money, later rescued her basically, and she ended up living happily with him in Los Angeles. He got her out of the Kennington Asylum. Well, thank God. I wish everybody could get out of them. Yeah, I wish everybody could get out of them. It's quite the opposite usually, but in that case, that was a happy ending one. Well, that's a good one. Thank you for turning that around. Poverty was seen as a bad thing. It was looked down upon as if you were a bad person because you were born it was a crime. It was
how can that? But that's so completely catch-22.
By society at the time as poverty was a crime.
Okay, so you
were guilty of not getting yourself out of that situation, and the Victorians very much saw it as something that poverty was something you were guilty of, even though it was a trap you were trapped in. Not okay. Okay, you come out of a uterus that doesn't have a great job, and that's your fault. Yeah, because they didn't understand it. It was the other, and both of these forms of institution. We will talk about the workhouse later, but it's always about the other. It's often people that are in some way outsiders. Yes, I understand. Different to the mainstream, and it's a place where you can put the outsider. Yeah, society's rejects. Yeah. What you were going to tell us about the story of the girl with it's a hate. Yeah, I mean many of these institutions were said to be haunted even while they were still institutions. Yes. Bedlam was famously haunted by a ghost of a girl called Rebecca. Now, Rebecca, apparently what had happened is that she had fallen in love with, she was a servant, she'd fallen in love with her master.
As you do.
As you do. And he wasn't in love with her and didn't know what to do. So he basically released her from her role and said, the stories say halfpenny. So,
okay, really quick. For a halfpenny, really most Americans would only know halfpenny, and I know I'm not saying it right. I'm saying it halfpenny like it is in the song. If you haven't got a penny, a halfpenny will do. If you haven't got a halfpenny, God bless you. It's a Christmas Carol song. So halfpenny means half a penny.
A halfpenny is half a penny.
How do you say it? It's a proper way.
Halfpenny.
Halfpenny.
Yeah.
Halfpenny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Halfpenny.
So
halfpenny. It's a bit like an halfpenny.
Halfpenny.
Is
that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but he didn't give her an halfpenny.
But it would have probably been more like a half crown or
how much is a half crown worth?
No, 12.5p. But
12.5 pence.
Yeah.
But no, in today's dollars, what would be a half crown back then? So he kicked her to the curb.
It's like about 25 cents. But that would have been a lot of money then.
I know, but what is it? It's in today's dollars.
Yeah, he basically gave her like a month, a week, or a couple of weeks' salary, so it would have been a grand or a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to go and find employment somewhere else.
Well, that's
but this
severance pay.
Yeah, severance pay. So her severance pay was a coin.
Okay.
But she was so distraught and so depressed, she ended up in Bedlam, and the longer she was in, and she spent the rest of her life distraught in Bedlam, and she died in Bedlam.
Because she was in love with him?
Well, because she'd been rejected, and then she ended up in Bedlam. So, and she always clasped the coin in her hand. She would never let that go.
I understand.
Because it was kind of the symbol of her love, and it was the cause of the madness.
They let her keep it in there?
Yeah. So she always had the coin in her hand. So, and it was known as the ghost of, and so it was Rebecca and her coin.
They still see her.
Yeah, but so I'll just get to the end of the story because we're only halfway through. So when she died, they took, where her hand was still warm, they took the coin out of her hand, and that paid for her funeral.
Oh, okay.
But the story is that her ghost after them would literally scream after people, my coin, where's my coin?
Oh my God.
And this was reported by the inmates and by many warders of Bedlam until and afterwards too, because this was in the 1770s, I think, and in 1815 it was moved to the last but one of its locations. So it was reported then, but her ghost is still said to be around Liverpool Street Station, which is built on the site of the last, on the site of Bedlam.
Okay, so have current people heard her or seen her demanding for her coin?
But the most of the stories referring to Rebecca were around between the latter half of the 18th century. I think she's quite calm now.
I guess hopefully she's gone into the light. Yeah,
hopefully. So at that point, there were a lot of reported sightings in Bedlam of this ghost of Rebecca.
Well, there would be Rebecca, and there'd be lots of others. There'd be
screaming
lots and lots of
ragefully,
others.
"Where's my coin? Where's my coin?"
It's kind of creepy. Like, who's got my toe? You know that story where the guy comes back for his toe?
No,
You know what I'm talking about? I'll tell you that.
No, I'm looking vaguely like.
Oh my God, it's a children's story about this hairy toe, and then he comes back for it, and it's creeping me out. This is a creepy episode. It's not supposed to be this creepy. It's supposed to be fun.
No, anyway, poor Rebecca was always searching for her coin.
Now, the insane asylums, I hate to say insane asylums because they're really not.
Well, yeah, we're using the historic
terms.
Yeah. We're not talking psychiatric or the terms that we should be using.
Are not that far off. They're almost synonymous, though, somewhat, as far as the treatment, except the doors were unlocked at the workhouses, yeah? You want to tell us about those?
The workhouses, the workhouse is basically the poorhouse. In Scotland, they were still called the poorhouses. In England, they changed the name to the workhouse in the 19th century. So they started in the 17th century, around 1650, as places, with the very best of intentions, as places where the poor could go. Instead of starving on the streets, you could actually go and to this institution. You could do a day's work, but no, you could sleep. You wouldn't have to sleep on the streets. But you'd also get you get breakfast, and you would also get, so you get 2 meals a day, and you'd be able to sleep. Not good conditions, but it's probably better than starving on the street. Yes. The Victorians in the 1840s began to develop poor laws, and within the framework of the poor being criminals and guilty of poverty, they developed the workhouse, as in Oliver Twist in the Dickens novel. So they became a sort of form of punishment. So they were made particularly as horrible places, as horrible as they could. But they always left the door open, so you could actually walk out of the... That was one difference between the old-fashioned asylum and the old workhouse. Yes. With the workhouse, the door was open, you could walk out. Right. So it was like people would choose to go and just starve to death on the street. It was better to starve to death and have some dignity rather than being these awful places. Well,
another Dickens reference is Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge, when he said, "Are there no workhouses?"
Exactly, and that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. It's like, that's the joke of it almost. It's like, what are you saying? No one wants to go to the workhouse. Yeah. Basically saying,
but that was not different from the mindset of that time period, because if you were lucky enough to not be in a workhouse, or be even a servant in somewhere, or be married into a family, you did look down upon those that were just like you.
Yeah, exactly. So the workhouse was made to be particularly orphan. If a family went in, the family would be split. The women always went on one side of the workhouse, the men went into another part of the workhouse, and the children went to another part. So there was no communication whilst they were in. So everyone was split, and often people went in when they're old. So if you had an old man and an old woman who'd been married for years, and they were very old, they would split and they'd never see one another again. That's true. So it's better to die on the streets together rather than you either go and have some food and some medical care, or you have none but die together. So they were made as a kind of, they were created as a support system, but they were made so bad that people wouldn't want to use them. But people were forced to use them. Right. Millions of people were forced to use them. I had one great aunt who died in them.
How old was she?
She was 18 when she died in there.
How did she die?
She died of a form of cancer.
18 inside a workhouse to die in one of those lice-filled bedbug
because
beds.
at that period, you weren't. You got to that age and you were a child. You either had to marry or get out and find a job or something. And if something happened and you couldn't, it was like the system. There wasn't enough money in that poverty to be able to stay at home. So she ended up and she died in the workhouse.
You had to go out at 18 and make it or break it.
Yeah, well, you go out before 18 and you go to 40.
But you couldn't go back. Yeah, you couldn't come back.
You couldn't get back because there was
so getting married to the butcher or whatever, that was a good thing because then you're out of the house and you had some income.
Well, yeah, that would be a very big step, but just to someone.
But to someone, just to anyone. But the pot to piss in, I was going to talk about that. The phrase pot to piss in. We say we're so poor we don't have a pot to piss in. Literally, that is a chamber pot where you could take the urine down to the tanner, correct? Yeah. And you could sell your own urine so they could tan leather, right? Yeah. But if you were so poor you didn't have something to carry your urine down to the tanner,
and
you were so poor,
you'd be on the street anyway. But you see that in India now. You drive down the road in India, you'll see people. They have a small piece of plastic, and that's what they will use, or a small rag. God. And that's street after street. It's not something historic. And I think we can sit down and say, oh, it's terrible in the past. But you drive down the street in any major town or city in India, and that's how it is. When you're driving down the street in the morning or in the evening, they're either preparing, whole families and lots of people, hundreds of thousands of people are preparing to sleep on the streets. Right. And then they will clear up in the morning. And I've seen myself. I've looked out of the car windows in the morning going to work, and I was working there. And you'd see someone there not moving, just that they didn't survive the night. So it's the same situation now, but it's just in a different place. We just don't have it in the Western world.
Well, that's what we do say is the Western world. We're not burning people alive. Well, it's happening on the planet right this minute. There are sex slaves at the age of 3 months old. There's still things going on now, and this is still happening.
But back to Gil's story.
Yes, I'm going to turn it around. I'm trying to. Here we come up to the melancholy, which is the depression of the workhouses. You have the Londonderry story. But isn't Londonderry part of a fairy tale or a folks? Isn't there like a little song?
It's very much foreshadowing in Irish history because it has two separate communities. It has a Republican and a Loyalist community, and there's two names. So it's one of those things. If you're loyalist, you call it Londonderry. If you're Republican, you call it Derry. I'm lazy, so I'm going to call it Delhi. That's Derry. It's not political. It's
Derry?
just
Oh, I
easier to
see.
say Derry.
Okay,
so he's set in Derry, and this is the workhouse where the woman who was in charge of the discipline, she would discipline children by locking them in this small closet, on top where they couldn't be heard screaming or banging, and she'd lock them in. And she was informed that she had to be strict, and that whoever was in the job had to do it. So it's not that she was potentially a mean person, but that was the job, and she had to try it. That was the way she found to discipline children. And one day there were two children, and she locked them in for some reason. But her sister was taken ill in County Derry, which is the countryside outside of the city. So she had to rush off and care for her sister. And in the panic of her sister, she forgot the children were in the cupboard, in the closet. Yes. And then on the way back, she realised, and she told the coach she was in just to hurry, quick, I've remembered. And that horrible feeling, I've got it. And she rushed up the stairs, and she thinking, oh God, maybe somebody let them out. And when she got the key and opened the cupboard, nobody had let them out because nobody heard them.
And it was her fault.
And it was her fault because she'd locked them in. And she never recovered. She didn't get put into an asylum herself, but she did have melancholy, and she continued that job, and she was always depressed until she died. And there are some reports, I understand, of the children, but there are many more reports of her and trying to care for people. It became a nurse's home later, and there were lots of stories of her when nurses are ill, putting sort of adjusting blankets and she's obviously still trying to care for people to make up for that.
To right
she did
her wrong in the afterworld.
And
I understand.
And then there's another story in York, which is far more gruesome.
Oh my God! I don't know if we can get any worse in this show. It's pretty. What do you mean gruesome?
Yeah.
How much more worse can we get?
The Ragged School, which opened in the mid 19th century, probably around the 1830s until 1840s, and that used to just take children off the streets of York, which is the city we talked about in the Roman Ghosts.
Yes.
And it collected the children, and the person who was sort of managing this institution, he was getting lots of money for the care of the children, so the authorities were paying him money to feed and clothe these children.
And he wasn't giving it to the kids.
No, he was basically starving them. And he would when they died of starvation, he was so lazy he wouldn't even bother to dig a grave or pay someone to. He wouldn't pay people to bury them because he'd have to pay someone to dig a pauper's grave, because all these workhouses had massive pauper's sites, and I'll come to that, burial sites, and I'll come to that. And so he would just throw the body of the children into a closet until the smell got so bad, and then he'd just get them taken off. And he became absolutely. He was truly psychotic, and he then ran amok with a knife and killed all the children.
Okay, all right. Oh yes, okay.
And say his ghost, the ghost of the children rather, are often heard kind of being quite happy, and then he turns to screaming.
In Londonderry. This is a repeated.
No, this is York. We've changed cities.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, this is in York. This is the Ragged School in York. And here they've got the ghosts of the children now. But it's always about these institutions where people are allowed to get away with murder, literally.
Yes, they were allowed to get away with murder. But you know what? It always balances out. It will balance out. If not in this life, it will in another one. If he's bound to this earth, who knows? But
anyway, so they were very miserable places. Now, I was just briefly going to mention, I did mention then the burial grounds. And the burial grounds are often supposedly very haunted, because that was the site where the bodies were put. They were given pauper funerals, but one of the fears of the workhouse is your body will be taken off and sold, because unless your family could pay the money to take the body away and bury them, the workhouse would sell the bodies for medical dissection.
Yeah.
And so they were just literally cut up on slabs and then just thrown into big holes, dissected. So the fear of the workhouse was not only the fear of life, but the fear of what would happen to your body afterwards. So these burial grounds are often unmarked, even though they can have thousands of bodies there, and they represent the fear of what would happen even after you died.
Well, because you needed sacred ground to be able to pass on
it
afterlife.
was consecrated ground But
They would there would be angst for those who were left behind.
as they would have seen as a Christian burial. They didn't get that.
If you didn't have that, because they would go take executed felons and things like that. That's where they got a lot of the bodies for the research.
But then there was medical acts, and they were able to buy bodies. Because of the birth of modern medicine, they did need to have dissection of bodies because they needed to understand what the illnesses were.
Yes.
And but they were just buying them from the poorhouse so they could dissect cheaply. But that was part of the fear of going in there. Yeah. And a lot of these graveyards or burial grounds do have bad energy association because of fear of the being buried there, not being buried properly.
Well, so there's suffering in massive amounts. Suffering from, I mean, literally, this is one of the most. It is interesting. It is very dark. It is interesting, though, the levels of energy, even personally doing the research and having the experience that we talked about at the beginning.
I think next week is like, let's get
animal
this
ghost stories.
a bit cuter.
No, we are going to do something different. Yeah. We promised that we'd do asylums and
we
work
did,
houses.
and we've got that one out the way. But I think it was always the one that was like a bit. Don't do that one.
Now, there was something really, it was not okay. There was something very unsettling about this one.
Very glad to get back to the ordinary spooky stuff. From next week.
So that's why we need you to send us your ghost stories. Damn it. Send us your ghost stories, please. There are, murders that take place and there are repetitive hauntings, but we do try to keep it up. But there was something something attached to this one. I'm sorry. There was some kind of a I'm not sure how that works with as far as time and space, as far as it being linear,
I don't
or
know,
what you give your energy and your thoughts to.
And very, very briefly, saying about the ground. But I only have one sort of experience of a workhouse. Not that they're in the workhouse, but when I was a student, and I went to art school, so I was working as an artist in the studio. I would work there in the studio, which is absolutely fine. But at night, I used to work there often on my own.
Right.
So I'd work there late at night, and I'd be drawing, particularly in the winter. It was like, well, it was dark outside, but the lights were on. There was no reason. There were people around in the building. It wasn't a spooky building. It was built in the 1960s. It was 1968 it opened, so it was a modernish building. And I'd go to the canteen, I'd get a drink or something, and it was always quite light. But as soon as I moved into this side, particularly when I got into the studio, it always felt really like...
I understand.
It just felt a bit weird. I needed to work and I enjoyed the working, but I always felt uneasy at night on my own.
Did you breathe? Did it feel like you couldn't breathe, or it felt
heavy
or thick?
It just felt thick. I just felt uneasy. Always uneasy.
Do you feel like you weren't alone?
I don't know. I never really thought about it too much. I just felt. I was always aware of being uneasy and like looking over my shoulder a lot.
I was always several times.
Always looking over my shoulder or looking around the room.
So
and then years later, when the internet happened, then I started to look at old maps because I'm interested in old maps and how things develop. I looked at the map and found out exactly where where the studio was, and that part of the building was built on the workhouse which is there from around 1730 to around 1810. So it was directly on top of the workhouse. The other part where I felt more at ease wasn't. But the studios where I was working were directly on top of the workhouse, and I always felt uneasy. So I just threw my £2 in there.
No, that's your 4 halfpennies.
Yeah, I got 4. I got
so it's 2 cents?
I got tuppence now. Yeah.
A tuppence, is that what you say?
4 halfpennies.
4 halfpennies is a tuppence.
Yeah.
So we have learned about that. We've also learned about the energy that's carried over with the human suffering. I mean, how powerful that is. So these ghost stories that a lot of people that do some in, they are like the stone tapes. They're repetitive, like watching a video, if you will. Some of them actually are dark energy. Some of them actually are just good energy. Some of them, like the helpful ghost you talked about, the helpful nurse. Some of them are malevolent, and some of them I say go with your gut and trust that, because that was not. It was not pleasant, and that was not human. That was not okay.
Yeah. Next week, puppies and kittens.
Puppies and kittens. We actually have a submission about a dog. It's a beautiful story, a very beautiful, happy story. So if it's like the Rainbow Bridge, but with sparkles on it and knobs on, as you say, with knobs on.
Wagging tails.
Yes, lots of happiness. So we're going to go billions of miles away from where this show was. But you know what, though? it is a balance, dark and light. There is dark and light. So you can't just have puppy dog tales and sunshines and rainbows and unicorns all the time.
Happy ghost. I like happy ghosts.
I like happy ghost stories. Oh, you weren't down there with me? It was horrible. It was horrible. So
happy ghosts
happy ghost stories from now on.
ghosts
So we would like
happy
to
ghosts.
ask you to submit yours. Please remember to visit us at facebook.com/stories from the standing room. You can also find us storiesfromthestandingroom.com is just ready to go over the top. Our guru is back from holiday and we will be up and running on storiesfromthestandingroom.com. Remember, please, these videos will be over on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. We need you.
We need you on YouTube.
YouTube.
We need you so bad.
Yeah.
We do need you.
Join you on YouTube.
Because
Join you on
we
YouTube.
want to
You join us on YouTube.
welcome our new subscribers. We did get a little bump last
we
week.
did, yeah.
SoundCloud, thank you for joining us on SoundCloud. We are literally in these are the birthing pains of this show.
Yeah.
So this show is really so very new, and we really didn't even know what we're doing. We still kind of don't. We're getting there though.
Yeah.
And so we're aiming to be podcast based and post production based. So the Facebook interaction that we're
we
doing.
are a multi-platform doodah.
We are a multi-platform dude. We're also available on iTunes. And if you do get a chance to listen to an episode on iTunes, please give us a little like and a review. We really appreciate you. We will leave this up for a while, but I will put them over on YouTube. And we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to put this in the recycling bin and say to bed with you. Good luck with that.
Puppies and kittens, here we come.
Send us your pet ghost stories if you have them. Send us your animal ghost stories if you have them.
that would be
Next
great.
week is animals in the afterworld.
Yeah.
Husband? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts?
No.
No.
Apart from Brock's been very quiet this week.
Brock
He
has
hasn't
been very quiet.
He hasn't been on camera. So
Yes, and you are
maybe
doing
next week.
You are performing surgery on Snuggles. Do you want to show him Snuggles? Okay, he's right behind you.
Oh, I will when I saw
All
you.
right, all right. Okay, Snuggles is
Take
not
care.
a real animal. It's
No,
a teddy bear.
it's a teddy bear. Don't worry.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Take
We love
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.